pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey folks, thank you everybody for coming tonight, in particular me. All right, we have some minutes to approve.
I believe we do. I approved, make motion to approve the April 9th, 2024 Water and Sewer Commissioner minutes.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All of us.
Thank you.
You got for me, kid?
That's it. Yeah.
Thank you. Yep. All right, do we want to get right into the first?
Yeah, I think we can go right down the line.
Okay. So, we have people here from 8591 West Main Street. The Pine Village Condo Trustees. We got Dan Couture.
Yes. Right.
Hi, Dan. All right, you wanna step right up and, state your name and.
You might want to go over here. Probably on this side.
That'd be easier.
Thank you, Lucy.
My name is Dan Kuchar. I'm a trustee at Pine Village Condominiums on West Main Street. As was indicated, we have two buildings, 85 and 91, two buildings with 6 townhouses each. And we are in the process of trying to connect to our stub. We had made a decision quite some time ago to forego the idea of one stub for each unit. We thought that was something that would be advantageous to both you fellas and, this commission and the town, as well as to help us a little bit as well. One of the things, though, primarily the reason why I'm here is the application for doing this job. And looking at it, it doesn't seem to be appropriate for condominiums. I mean, you have 5 different types of property types, starting with the residential single family, which is the only one currently that you really want us to use. Residential multifamily, commercial, industrial, and multi-use. So, and looking at this, some of the things you really have to understand, but one of the primary ones is that in our bylaws, which is typical for any condo, I think, in town, is that there is a managing body, usually trustees, and in our case, trustees, that are in our bylaws, and we take care of everything that's outside of the inside of the buildings, right? So that's all the common areas and everything. And of course, this type of a project comes in under us. And the owners, even though they in fact are responsible, just as the trustees are, but they turn it over to the trustees to manage. And it would seem like the most practical thing would be for the sewer commission to deal with us rather than trying to deal with all the individual people. For example, what if we were 50 units? And you'll probably, if you expand the system, you're probably going to come up with most condos will be larger than ours. And you're going to try to deal with every individual on managing all of these projects. It doesn't seem to make sense to me. we've been given the responsibility, we take the responsibility. And so what happens is every little, document, including this application, trying to get signatures from everybody, and they don't all reside all the owners do not reside in our properties. It just makes a burden for everybody where they've already decided to give us as trustees the ability to manage the project and to deal with you fellas. So something like this, application, we'd like to see it addressed to the trustees, because we are in fact the ones that manage all of that, and we'll continue to manage it as time goes on, right? So, but anyway, at the moment, we're trying to deal with the document that we have, and we have a few questions about it. And I guess the first one would be, section 2, so everybody has to sign that particular one. I'll get it here in a minute. Okay, so it really, I think we understand that what primary things that you're trying to do here is to make sure that everybody agrees individually that they're gonna pay the sewer fee once we're tied in, and you start charging each person. And that's fine with us, that's fine. But it seems to me it'd be an easier way would be just to have us have collect on one sheet everybody's name and submit it to you as a document that everybody's in agreement with that, rather than making this a big effort to do at the last minute, to go out and try to find, after people have already put the money in from assessment that we have made to get the project done and everything, and to ask them to do it again, it just doesn't seem to make sense to us. But one of the things here was, so under the rules and regulations on this document, it says all costs and expenses incidental to the connection of the building sewer shall be borne by the owner. Okay, that makes sense up to a point, but there should be some sort of definition or wording that accepts the fact that the trust takes on that responsibility, even though, of course, the individual owners are responsible behind the trust, because they are in fact the trust, right?
So is this just a wording issue
Well,
that we have here?
It is, but we also want to know exactly what does it mean to indemnify the town from any loss or damage that may be directly or indirectly occasioned by the installation of the sewer. Wouldn't you want to be dealing with the management team that is actually going to be responsible for this? As opposed to having each individual person responsible to identify, whereas if there was an issue, we would take care of that, for our individual owners.
So what, give me a, okay.
And what are you talking about? What kind of damages are you talking about?
The damages, I can't even specify what that could be because it's on private property. But basically, any work that takes place on private property can't have any impact on the town. So obviously, if the contractor is digging, they hit the stub, and now it breaks the sewer main out in the street, ultimately, the contractor and the person connecting are responsible to make those repairs. It was an error, it was unfortunate, whatever, but those repairs and any damages related to that can be borne by the town.
Okay.
But let's just go back. You have layers of questions. I just don't want to miss anything. Okay. So the paperwork is boilerplate. It's standard. It's because majority of people that connect in town are individual connections. So
no, I understand
an agreement between the town
history, yes,
and that individual person connected. If there's a second agreement in place, if there's an association or a trust or something like that, those can be dissolved at any point in time. At that point, that document between
person that signed it is no longer valid. So we have individual reports with individual people's names when these houses connect,
Yeah.
showing that that individual has agreed to the terms and conditions, has agreed to pay the sewer bills that are now gonna be added to the water bill. And we take all that information, each one of these addresses has its own separate file because it has its own separate utilities.
Yep.
So these become documents that, basically legal in nature because they were signed by the owner or applicant at the time. And that's on record. So if somebody 10 years down the road wants to come back and question, well, this was installed and now there's a problem with it, well, there's no more trustee, the condo association's dissolved and now they're individual units. Well, now there's nobody to go back to. So by having an actual owner occupant name down, that's the agreement that was made, that those funds and monies due or anything of that nature, and if anything was done wrong, you have one single person to go back to, they're not hiding behind a trust. We understand the ease of having a trust and the benefits to having a trust, but it doesn't do anything for us in our computer system when we have to add things in and we don't have a name that aligns. It creates a red flag. So we can't have John say he lives at my house, sign documents and say, yep, I agree to a sewer connection and I'll pay these bills. 2 months later, John leaves and I get the bill because I'm the owner.
Okay,
So that reasons for the documents that are in place.
that part I can understand. You gotta have, I guess you have to have people recognize that, although to me, if you are billing it, I don't know how they could avoid it, but anyway, I'll take your word that you have to get that in writing that they will accept it, even though that's not an issue.
I mean, there's a possibility that the board may make an exception where there's a trust and you could be DBA, doing business as, or
Yeah.
representing them as. That would simplify things, especially if you said that the residents don't live there. I don't personally have a problem with that.
Yeah.
They're entrusting you with a certain amount of responsibility, but we still need to have the forms filled out, even if it's not by that individual person, but we definitely need their names on it. It can't be, State Street Research and John Smith lives there. We need their name actually on there.
Yeah.
If they trust you to do that and put their name down, that's perfectly fine, because we'll have a document that aligns. And then we can have your signature, if the board again allows,
Mhm.
different from what's been allowed in the past. Again, these are
Okay.
boilerplate standard things that have been in place for many, many years with minimal changes. Just because if each person that comes before us asks for a change, we'll have 30 different documents where it's covered
Okay.
by those 5 choices.
But you're heading in the direction that I would hope would go,
Mhm.
where we can simplify some of these connections, so that we can deal with issues quickly and without a lot of red tape. And certainly, I can understand we want that agreement. But the other part to this is we just want to make sure that the board, if there is a problem, that the board has the first chance to rectify the problem quickly and efficiently. And if that doesn't work, then obviously all the individual owners would be responsible. So I'm just looking for kind of wording in that regard. All right. So anyway, but that, if what you're saying there is what I expected for that second one. But now the section 3 is one that we still don't all understand either. When we say the undersigned understand that if the sewer service connection does not go under the basement floor of our residence, that we will be unable to install any plumbing fixtures in the basement of the residence. We will assume all full responsibility for any future changes of the sewer service connection. So, I guess the question on that one primarily is, what are we restricted with what we can install in our own buildings? Is a washer and dryer considered a plumbing fixture?
I remember this language, I don't remember why it was added.
Now, in our case, the service connection is gonna be all on the outside, right? And, so we don't have anything that's going under, but I guess we certainly want to be able to have the ability to connect washer and dryers, whatever it may be. Toilets probably would not, I don't know about that one. We don't have any toilets down in the basements or below the level of the sewer.
I think the plumbing would be more towards, I would think, again, a shower or a toilet or something like that, up to that nature. I don't think a washer and dryer would be considered, in my opinion, but,
Yeah.
we'd have to talk more about this.
I'm not sure when that was added. I know it's been in there for some time.
It's just to connect to the gravity bill. If you have something coming in from the bottom of the slab, then anything you put in there would be feed by gravity. But if you have your sewer service coming in 4 feet above, you can't put a toilet in, or even possibly a washer, because you're gonna have to pump it.
Well, the washer and dryers already work, but I mean, they pump out and out.
Right.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's more difficult to do with a toilet.
Yeah, toilet or shower, you need some type of,
But that's the root of it is. You're gonna have to do a backup of it.
I believe that's what the root of it is that we don't have any open sewer connection below the anticipated grade. Which if you're going below the basement of the house, more than likely you would be at or below the grade of the sewer system, which obviously could lead to a potential failure point if
Okay.
your backflows failed.
All right, so would you be able to give us something and wording that says that's really?
We
what
can
you're looking
research
to do?
why this
Break
was
it
added
down.
and see if we can break that down. I don't
Yeah.
remember when it was added, to tell you the truth, so it might take a little bit to research, but. Okay, we can look it up.
All right, I think that's the primary things that we're interested in, although I guess the other part is, do I understand correctly that the fees charged per unit include inspection fees?
Connection fee, inspection fee, permit fee are all per EDU, and condo associations are assessed as their single individual units, just like they have their own single, other utilities are all also separate.
Okay,
Uh,
but if
but-
the trust pays for it, it doesn't matter to you, right?
where the payment comes from is not a major issue as far as the documentation goes. That's the simplest
Yeah.
corrective action.
But it still seems like for something like that, it seems like other communities are able to get through this more easily through, through the board of trustees. And you don't have to have a zillion signatures on it to get something like that through. I mean, we'd be willing to accept, having us get signatures on a letter to give you. Just to make the whole process easier, although that doesn't really help us a whole lot.
It seems like a
Still
lot
have-
more work on your end.
Well, it's about the same, I guess. I guess I'm still looking to get away, we can add something to our bylaws that says, the trustees, expect any permit with the town, you allow the trustees to sign it, but you understand that you're responsible for it, something like that. We want to help you on that, but we're also looking at the same time. And I mean, I just think that as you expand and you run into other condos, you're gonna have the same problem. It would seem like, from what I understand from contractors, is that other towns don't have as much of an issue with that. It's easy to get done. So I'm just asking,
This is the first time anybody's actually questioned any of the documents doing this.
well, I think we're the
This seems
first
very
one
simple
to
to
go
us.
from a conversion from second.
Yours is pretty unique, though. Your situation over there is pretty unique. As opposed to some of the other places, like usually they run a sewer service, water service to each individual. But you're manifolding into one,
Yeah,
correct, if I'm not mistaken?
yeah.
Yeah.
Because we were trying to retain some,
Right,
there were other things involved, trees.
Good for-
fences,
it's good for
everything
everybody.
else. That's
It-
all
you
we're
know,
trying to do.
yeah.
I mean, if the board is okay with allowing
A DBA type deal.
like a DBA, I have no issue
I
with it.
really
but
have
we-
no problem with that.
as long as we
It's
have
easier on you.
The name.
I make a motion,
Might
I
have-
make a motion to accept the DBA for the signature of the, particular address, but but requiring that the owner's name and address be included in each application.
As it turns out, I've gotten most signatures that are needed on an individual basis. But I just want to make sure that, going forward, that we can be dealing more directly trustees versus, the town people who are going to be inspecting, for instance. No, we're managing that responsibility because we're going to have our own main line there with, 3 manholes and cleanouts and all that, and we're gonna manage that.
So
we
should,
just
so
wanna-
should we get some paperwork before we vote on anything? Let's see, like Steve's motion, should we get some sort of paperwork before?
Well, we can ask for a letter on your stationery, just to basically who you are and that you're going to basically do a DBA on this. On your letterhead, just an agreement that you're doing that, and then we'll just include it in the file,
That's
or
fine,
each
then
of the application.
Okay,
okay.
that's fine.
Then I second it, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Very good, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Dan.
Thank you.
Good night.
Keep going.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, John, thank you. All right, moving on to 192 Taunton Ave. Water loop time discussion, if you guys want.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, John Mastriani, General Manager, Loberson Companies. I'm just questioning the 2 fees, or we have 2 8-inch taps, or 6-inch taps coming off your main, which is required by you to do a loop in our system. And I was just wondering if we could just agree to the $150,000 charge instead of the 2, for the 2 taps that we just did.
Refresh me on this one.
This is the corner of,
Yeah,
Taunton
sorry.
Ave, New Taunton Ave, Old Taunton Ave, New Taunton Ave, across from Woodward Street.
Okay.
So they tore down a farmhouse, they're putting up, how many duplexes are going up there?
4 buildings, 8 units total.
And, they have to put a 8-inch water loop around the, system, so
Okay.
they have a water loop, meet the water loop requirement as per the regs.
Okay.
And, so they had to do 2 8-inch taps. It's a 6-inch main that they're doing an 8-inch loop off of. So he's asking for a waiver of one of the tap fees to meet the 8-inch loop requirement.
Correct. Yeah, because we also had to extend the water services closer to the setback duplex that we have, which was not included in the original plan, which we have no problem with. We understand why you want to do that. So that, so there was additional fees for that. So we're just questioning whether we could just get the waiver, as the gentleman said, for just 1 tap. And we also have the same situation coming up on Dean Street that we're gonna be doing also.
Yeah, we've done this in the past.
Only if there's been a benefit to the town.
Yeah.
Get the secondary access like we did for the property on Pine Street.
Right.
They provided us with the loop out to the
Okay.
side there. And then we also did a waiver of a fee for, I believe it was Condyne, when they did the loop out to Janet, connecting Leonard Street and Leonard to Janet, no, through the Home Depot.
So
property, I believe.
this is just an internal loop, we're not feeding anything else off of that,
There
we're
is
not,
no
no
additional
connecting,
feed.
nothing.
No, they did extend, as he mentioned, a water main out back, I believe it was a month or maybe 2 months ago, they were before us, and they showed us the plans. They showed the loop, and then the 1 feed out back was gonna have 2 spaghetti lines, which we did not allow. So they ended up extending the main, putting a hydrant at the end and running 2 short services to the duplexes that are out there.
So there has been some benefit to the town by this work, not necessarily the tap.
There's additional growth coming in town from it.
There's no benefit. I mean, they had to, there's no spaghetti lines are allowed anyways,
Mhm.
so you would have had to run that anyways with a short line. Uh, Nothing else, there's nothing else there that, we can trade off with, in regards to this. Because that's a lot of, that's a big chunk of money.
Historically, the board has always charged for each connection to the main regardless of quantity and size, unless there's been an additional benefit to the town by, creating an extra loop or helping out an area that has, a volume problem or something like that. I know years ago it was discussed that if the loop was going to be required, depending on the amount of water services, which we would also charge for, that would be something that would be waived. We don't, or we already chose not to charge a fee for each of the hydrant connections, because that's obviously an improved benefit for the town.
Right.
Both for our flushing and for fire suppression. So that's something that, could be discussed as far as waiving the service connections. But again, it depends on how many are being built in one particular area, if it's going to offset the cost enough for the contract.
Are these
Yep.
loops, are these loops fairly close to each other or
This, I don't have a distance.
They're within probably 80 feet of each other, 80 or 90 feet of each other. And we have paid for the 8, taps to the houses also. So,
it's part of, it's part of it though, right?
It is, I just know that previously the prior board had discussed looking at options, to offset some of the costs for the loops.
That's what I'm kind of,
And historically, it's been, basically you pay the fee based on the connection size unless there's an improvement made to the town.
Those were 1 inch taps, right, John?
yes, sir.
So that equals, I think, 36,000 if my math's correct.
That is correct. Again, I understand the board's, position and just again, we're just looking for relief if it's possible.
well, we just don't wanna set a bad precedent going forward where, as we've done in the past, where other contractors have done improvements to the town, for their properties, what they were building. The 1 inch services, are they normally 3/4? Is that what?
You can do 3/4 or 1 inch. It doesn't, they're doing 1 inches for the duplexes, but 2 1 inches per building. Okay, so 8 units.
Yeah, I think the reason it was chose not to take away the service fees, the actual water service fees, is because of the majority of the unknown. You have a development like this going in that's gonna have 8 services, you could have a larger development going in that could have 50 services, so they monitor that. Either if you made that criteria be that, you create a water main loop, you pay the 2 service connection fees, but you don't pay any of your service connections, could far exceed the cost of waiving one of those loop connections.
Right.
So it goes both ways, and I can see why the previous board took no action on either of them.
Okay, that's. What do you think, Steve?
I think we have to follow the party line. Take no action.
Yeah, I can't tell. I can't see how we could, waive that right now.
It is a topic of discussion with the rate study people. But we're still working through that water and sewer rate study and looking at possible options of changing the fee structure is one of the items. Other things still have yet to be discussed as far as rates and connections based on other communities. That's something that it may change in the near future or it may not, but I don't have that.
No, right now, I just, the board's just gonna, stand pat with what we do. We've done in the past. Fortunately. There's something more we could do, but
Oh, believe me, I totally understand. Just figured we'd, give it a shot to see if it could help us out, and
yeah,
again,
no, we,
totally understand.
Thank you. Anything else?
Nope, okay, thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
I would love to come up with a magic, solution that would be palatable for everybody. I just,
It's a precedent setting issue, so
that's
You've done it.
difficult.
If you do it for this one, you also do it for the next one. Might as well just change your bylaw.
Yeah.
Right.
we're on, 308 East Main Street, Bernie and Phil's. One discussion. People,
Mr. Chairman,
sorry,
before we begin, there's an apparent conflict of interest, but maybe not one. So, a consultant that works for Bernie Fields is a company that I work part-time for. But the other hand, I have not done any work on Bernie and Fields, nor has done anything towards this application, so I just wanted to throw it out there that this is a possibility of conflict of interest. Or an apparent conflict of interest, I'm not too sure the direct conflict of interest.
so,
And the reason why it's important is if I can recluse myself, you don't have a quorum and you can't take any action.
that's what we have. We're gonna have.
You understand?
I completely understand. I've never met you, so
No, I haven't done a thing on the
Yeah.
project, no, I'm just saying that I work with Bert.
I got you. Okay, I didn't even understand the
He's my
relationship.
He's my
so-
boss.
Gotcha.
You know,
Okay,
So, so to speak, he's my boss.
sure.
Still go through and learn everything about what's being passed. And even if you continue it till a meeting when Jim is here.
I think we're gonna have to.
I think that's the.
We have to.
Does that make sense? With the way the laws are.
I mean, I don't wanna waste everybody's time, but I think it's one of the, without having the other, commission here.
Yes, I think we can continue the discussion about it. I just don't think the board can make formal vote until we have a certain number.
Okay. So does that mean we might need to come back for this or is it
Or
something?
even something on Zoom.
Okay. Okay, so my name is Gary Thomas and from President and CEO for North Point Construction Management. We're currently the construction managers on the addition for Bernie and Phil's Furniture. We have several people here with us tonight, Bert Corey from DGP, as this gentleman just stated. Greg Hewitt from Bernie and Phil's, Michael Rubin from Bernie and Phil's Furniture, and Ben Jagger from our office as well. And I believe Rick Mann, our legal counsel, is on. He's been part of the process for the whole permitting and everything. So we're really here to try to figure out the water loop that's being requested right now. So initially in 2019, when all of this was brought to the board, when we've been working on this project for quite some time, it took us about 4 years to get through all the approvals and everything. And part of it was COVID rearing its ugly head. But right now, our position is that the meeting minutes from 2019 were telling us that the fire department would basically tell us what was going to be involved for the fire hydrants and everything. And for the addition that's being brought on to the backside of the building here, it's approximately 50,000 square feet, 49,400 to be exact. It's really just a tempered storage on the backside of their existing warehouse areas. There's no bathrooms, there's no offices, there's no nothing back there. It's literally a sea of furniture and racks and stuff. And the only reason it's tempered is obviously because it's furniture. But there's not even a single restroom out in the backside of the building. All of our original water line and connections and everything still come in. that feed the existing fire suppression, as well as on this corner of the building. There's actually several locations that have been in the building since, Reuben Norton LLC purchased the property for Bernie and Phil's Furniture, back in like 1995. There are the 3 separate locations. This is the existing water service that feeds the building, but also there is and I don't think the city or the town had it noted on their plans, but during some of our investigation, we found that there was another fire suppression line that comes into the corner of the building. It's been there very early on. Our main position for this addition right now came from this existing water service, which is really for the fire suppression. There's a couple of pumps inside of the building here. We took all of our new fire suppression system up and through the building, got everything approved with your fire department. When we met with the fire department to try to get through the locations of the fire hydrants, this is what they had agreed with us upon, which is connecting to this 6-inch line that comes all the way across the backside, feeding this building. They're asking us to bring a line over to here for a proposed fire hydrant here and a proposed fire hydrant here. What the water department is now requesting is that we bring a loop all the way around the backside of the building here. And we're trying to figure out why, because that in 2019, when we first approached the board about this, it was the fire department's decision on what they were looking for. And this is all they're looking for from us, feeding the fire hydrants. So we're just trying to, this is quite the expense all the way back over to here, and plus the $50,000 connection fee to provide the loop. It starts to be, Ben, you've got the numbers. It's like a $400,000.
If we do it all.
Yeah. A pretty major expense for 2 fire hydrants. It's really all it's accomplishing,
Well, the problem starts with the fire department basing the hydrants and not realizing the limitations of the fire flow feeding them. So you have a 6-inch feed that's coming off the 12-inch main out there on East Main Street. That was put in, has 1 fire hydrant existing, and then its main purpose is to feed the fire pump in the rear building. Having hydrants or anything attached after that could be detrimental if that fire pump needs to run and there's a hydrant after it running. You're going to cavitate the 6-inch line, possibly collapse it, or in the least damage the pump and not have water coming out of the hydrant after the pump, which obviously in a major fire situation is going to be a big problem. Fire department looks at it from having firefighting opportunities for external firefighting on the C side, but still nothing on the D side, which would be the far right-hand corner. So they're looking at it as you're putting on this additional building that's got highly flammable or highly combustible materials in it, in addition to what's already there. This is going to be one of the largest structures in town with those type of flammables internal. Even though it has a fire suppression, there's no external opportunities for fighting. So with the loading docks there, with the amount of trucks that are there, storage that's in some of the trucks that are out back with the old mattresses and things like that, they're looking at any possible way to make sure that there's enough fire suppression there. If they pull a truck around the back and they hook up to one of those hydrants, it's going to be a pumper. They're not just going to run a 2.5 off it. They're going to want as much water as possible. You're not going to get that out of that 6-inch line at that distance without having some type of an upgrade. If that was an 8-inch line, probably wouldn't be an issue. But the flow rate that you're looking to get at the end of that 6-inch line, even without the fire pump running, is pretty minimal. And you're looking at potential for cavitation if you hook it up to a pumper. Not only just cavitation of the pumper itself, but there's no way that you could have 2 of those facilities running at the same time, a pumper truck and that fire pump. So that's where we got involved. We started talking with the deputy chief, explained the limitations of the line based on its size, and started talking about opportunities of doing wall hydrants on the right-hand side of the building, which is the D side of the building. I know there was some fire pump testing that was done there. I believe multiple tests were done on the original pump. And for some reason, it was determined that wasn't a good option or a viable option for whatever reason. I know the fire department was also concerned about having to actually physically attach to a building, especially if that same structure is on fire. They want distance for their machines, distance for their personnel.
Right.
we had thrown out the idea of possibly having a separate dedicated main on the right-hand side, an 8-inch main, because we don't allow 6-inch to be connected any longer, on the right-hand side of the building, with dedicated hydrants down the side, possibly 2 or 3, that would give them their firefighting stance on the D side of the building, and they could possibly run hoses or something around to the back of the building. Originally, where I believe you guys have the septic system or the stormwater drainage in the back of the building that was proposed there,
Yeah.
we were told that there was no feasible way to get a water main to go there because it was gonna be foundation there. We understood that, that's perfectly fine. And then we saw these plans that the fire department had drafted and showed that there is separation there and there is the possibility to create the loop. All of these older structures are being required to be brought up to code. The loop is in the code now. With the limitations of that 6-inch water main on one side with a dedicated feed or purpose to a fire pump, it seems extremely foolish and limiting to rely on that and not actually install the loop so that there is plenty of firefighting opportunities, internal and external, at one of the most combustible buildings that we're gonna have in town in its current state. Who knows what's gonna happen in the future? And that's the conversation that I've had with the deputy chief many times over.
So our discussion, not to negate what you're saying, but our discussion
Mhm.
about the wall hydrant over here, it went up another level. I think it went from Deputy Chief Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, but
Originally, Deputy Chief Robbins was in favor of the wall hydrant,
Yep.
but he's always been objectionable to anything on the right-hand side of the building because he doesn't want to run his trucks that close to a burning building.
Mhm.
So he's told us he'll never take a truck down the right-hand side.
and our discussion with them was they would tie into this hydrant if needed.
No, you're right. He said he'd never put his truck down the town access road that's beside that property there. But in discussions that I've had with him, he would park it in the parking lot of the building right beside it, the Gold's Gym. Because it can definitely support the weight of a fully loaded vehicle. His concern was about getting into that gravel access road and swamping his truck.
Yeah, he made that clear.
So having hydrants that he could attach a pumper to, could attach a ladder truck to, and fight the fire externally from an adjacent property, it is something that everybody's looked at as a huge positive. Unfortunately, Norton has had its share of fires in town. One of them, the most recent, was the waste management building down off of Hill Street, which is a fairly new building. Unfortunately, back then, there was no loop requirement in place. There's one fire hydrant in the front of that building, and they lost, I think, 7 or 8 of their, very expensive trash compacting trucks because it started in the rear of the building and there was no access to a hydrant. So since then, the fire department and the water department have worked in depth together to make sure that, the loops are enforced and that, all of these older buildings are being required to move into compliance where is ever possible. Obviously, if there's a foundation there, we're not gonna make you go under a foundation. It's not feasible, but in this drawing or this proposed drawing that's presented to us, it looks like it's something that is able to be done.
Yeah, Frank, the original, when we said we didn't want to go behind the building, it wasn't back behind the new structure. It was back behind where all this trucking is because they have trucks in and out 24 hours a day.
Okay,
And if we dug a ditch across there, we shut it down.
Sure.
So we know a contractor who said he'll do a weekend if we can get somebody to inspect on weekend.
Okay.
And, it's of course more expensive and it'll take a lot longer to do it, but at least we can't shut down their business.
totally makes sense. Yeah,
So that was what was going on behind the building. It really wasn't the foundation. It was the,
okay,
keeping the business.
okay. I was misinformed. All right, thank you.
So if I could raise one other issue, Frank.
Yeah.
You just on the previous discussion said it's the town benefits. The Conservation Commission, I can't think of the gentleman's name.
John Thomas.
John Thomas.
Yep.
John Thomas expressed a great deal of interest in getting water back to the property that they own behind the project. If we do have to wind up running that loop, we'd like to apply for a waiver on the $50,000 fee because we would give him, we could give him a short little stub or something. That when they do something back, I don't know what they're gonna do, but when they do something back there, it would be right there for them.
I would definitely propose something to the board if they're willing to entertain that. I'm unaware of what would be done with that property out there, but I do know it is town owned and does have frontage on the main road. We definitely have a conversation with John. Obviously, we can't vote anything in this meeting.
They have frontage on the roof?
They have frontage right there.
They have a right of way.
There's a right of way.
Right.
Okay, I know where that is.
And so basically that loop would run right down the property line between Reuben and the right of way. So they would have access.
Mhm.
I don't know what he had planned out back either, but I saw his eyes light up like, oh,
Yeah.
You may have some plans.
I guess I'm really more concerned for our client that every step of the way here, we keep hitting a ton of snags and, we already spent almost 4 years of going through the planning board and the process, and initially back in 2019, it was whatever the fire department wanted. And then all of a sudden we get what the fire department wanted and we're asked to throw in a whole nother 8-inch line to the tune of close to $500,000 by the time we're done. It's a massive expense, to the client. And listening to what the fire department is saying to us is that their preference would be to tie into this hydrant here. And I understand what you're saying, Frank, if this building was on fire, this building was on fire, yeah, I would agree, everybody has a major problem here. But will this 8-inch line satisfy that problem? We haven't done those calculations at all, but if this hydrant is active, seems to me that this is the 12-inch line and it's running out through the whole down the main road, wouldn't that be the best location to be drawing water instead of off of the side of the building over here?
You wanna be as close to the pump as possible. The more hose you have to run, the more friction loss you have, the more issues you have. So if you're gonna try and put a truck out back because the rear of that new building is on fire, you're looking at, I don't have a distance here, maybe the measurement.
650 feet.
So you get 650 feet of hose that has to be strung from that hydrant before you even connect it to the pumper. And then you're gonna shoot from there. You still have no way of getting around to the other side of the building where where the parking lot is. If there's a dumpster fire, if there's, there's many limitations to not having a loop on a major commercial property like this. I know there's expenses involved, and unfortunately, as the buildings improve over the years and get added to, there are expenses that are gonna have to be borne by the occupants to maintain compliance. It'd be no different than if this building was exceeding its certain parameters that the fire pump that's existing wasn't gonna be able to support the work that you're talking a serious amount of money to improve that.
Yep, and we have tested all of that.
I know you have.
Yeah, we've gone through the whole gamut of even documenting the entire building. We hired a fire protection engineer to document and take care of everything that's within the building from a fire suppression standpoint. Tested all of the pumps in all of the buildings.
Yeah, there is definitely very limited information based on the age of the building. Even
Right.
that we have.
Yep. And that's why our client was willing to put forth the money to make sure that we got everything documented. And to satisfy that portion of it for the fire department yourselves, on the engineering side.
Just from my standpoint, there's a reason why we haven't put in 6-inch water mains, since the early 90s.
Sure, yeah.
Because they can't support a lot of flow. The more distance you have on them, and depending on the material and the C factor inside the pipe itself, that further limits the capacity that you're gonna see at the end of that line. It became too much of a concern that most departments have basically banned all 6-inch pipes. So to allow somebody to come in and add substantial distance to it and hydrants, especially after a fire pump, it's just not something that sits well with me. I definitely won't sign off on it. If the board wants to, that's perfectly fine. It's just not something that makes any sense to me, that you wouldn't at least upgrade the line feeding it or create the loop.
When you say upgrade the line feeding it, meaning
Yeah.
that 6-inch line.
So if you have a 6-inch line with a dedicated hydrant on the end of it, it's one thing. You put a 6-inch line with a hydrant and a fire pump, that becomes a whole different animal. I know that pump runs well. I've been there many times and I've tested it, but I wouldn't be willing to put a hydrant after it and run a hydrant and that pump at the same time. I just don't see it working. Again, I'm not an engineer. Somebody wants to put it on paper and sign off on it, that's perfectly fine with me.
Right.
These are the reasons why I've met with the fire department and we've had conversations about this, and it seemed like the simplest and best for everybody was to have a loop and meet the requirements that are in the code today.
Would you waive any hydrants on the right side of the building since they didn't want to use them? Or you're saying you still want some hydrants on the right-hand side of the building too?
It's definitely something that we're open to discuss. AWWA standard is a fire hydrant, no more than every 500 feet. So with the distances you have there, you could look at putting one somewhere in the back corner. You know, you could definitely change the spacing on it, or possibly put it halfway down and move some of the ones around the back. Again, fire hydrant placement is definitely done by deputy chief.
Okay,
So that'd be a discussion we would want to have with him. But, as far as, you know, benefits to the town, if John Thomas does have property out there that he's interested in supplying water to, I'm sure the board would be, willing to listen to that and possibly look at waiving that connection fee out front.
Rick, you were gonna say something?
I was, thank you. You heard me grunting. Rick Mann, hi, everybody. Appreciate the ability to do the hybrid connection. So maybe it is somewhat serendipitous that we can't vote tonight. I'm hearing what the superintendent has said, and we're all listening, obviously, with great care. Maybe your last comment, Mr. Fournier, was that you're not an engineer, and perhaps if you got somebody to sign off on it, you might feel differently. I think that's probably the best avenue, I think, for us to explore, along with some of these other suggestions that have been just discussed, and then return at the next meeting and see if we have any information that would persuade you otherwise. Because I certainly understand, I think we all understand, you know, the safety concern that you're raising, and nobody wants to create an unsafe scenario.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm definitely not an engineer. I've got, many years in the business. I've seen many failures from having the wrong design in place, and I've seen many things that could have been done differently, and that's all we're looking to do here, is to avoid any future problems. I do not have the final say. It is the board that has the final say in making these type of decisions, but, I'm definitely, open to, giving my opinion and speaking with the fire department if we're looking to do some hydrant relocations or possibly look at other alternatives.
No, I think that's great.
hydrant.
23rd.
Frank, I think it's like in 2 weeks.
I think it's coming up
23rd, I think.
What are you doing, flow test?
on that 6-inch hydrant.
The one that's right out in the back over here,
When is that scheduled for?
the 23rd, Rick.
And when is the next meeting of the commission?
No, we haven't said it yet.
Okay,
It's usually the second Tuesday of every month. Usually the second Tuesday of every month.
so we probably, if you wanted to have that result in here, we'd be in the July.
June 11th.
June 11th, that's the next one. Okay, we wouldn't have the result yet, but we may not need the result, but we could perhaps make it contingent upon the result.
This is a little bit of a different subject, but is this the location that we could talk about sewer connection, or is that, yeah? Cause as you guys know, Vernon Hills has been on a septic system for many years. We're in a position that we are trying to get the sewer connection. Bert and his team have done some of the work to design the system to get tied in, to abandon the old sewer, the old septic locations and do the tie-in out of the street. How does that work with you guys? Is this, we just got a notation that it was like 65,000, is that right, Ben? 65.
Okay.
Is that an impact fee? What is that for?
That is the total connection fee for the building, you know, barring inspections. If there's multiple inspections down there, $50 an hour per person.
Sure, yeah.
We don't expect many. I know you have a couple connections there. I have a set of plans that we actually ran before the sewer department. They recommend some locations for cleanouts and stuff. I can get them to you before we leave.
Okay.
That we have that.
And there's also, I think it might have been Ben who emailed me. I've been meaning to try to formulate this email to whoever it was. I think it was Ben. Asked about the fee itself, as far as it being the only fee from the town. That is the Norton Sewer Department tie-in fee. It was asked about fees from Mansfield, Foxborough, Norton Wastewater District.
Mhm.
That has nothing to do with us. That's just from the sewer department. I
Yeah.
can't speak to what the MFN would want. I don't see why they would want anything. It's not like you guys are putting chemicals or
Yeah.
anything like that in there, but as far as, that's just a sewer connection only thing.
Yeah,
I know,
We have spoke to him, and that's whatever it is. They want a couple $500 fees.
yeah, yep,
And they want to come out and walk the property to inspect floor drains and things, and that's reasonable, they want to know if they're getting done. I mean, I found the drain, the question I'd asked you was, in your notes, and Bert, you know, help me with this, there are 3 fees that are possible. The fee we're looking at is that a town sewer main, or is somebody put that in at their expense, and we're gonna be charging assessment to tie in? You know, sometimes the developer will extend the line,
yeah,
and then when you tie into it, you pay part of his expense.
yeah, I believe it was a privately funded sewer line, but it's owned by the town, so it's
So there's
just,
no extra benefit.
no, there's no betterment fee, there's no tie-in fee to anyone else.
That was my question, because we hit this all the time where we think we're tying into the town, but some developer extended it for a project and he holds his hand out later.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Is that a low, is that a low pressure line there? Is that what it is?
It's,
Pressure line, it's not a
yeah,
gravity
it's
line,
not
right?
a gravity
Okay.
main, it's a pressure main,
Hold on here.
So there'd be,
from Norton Glen
You'll benefit.
down to Red Mill Village,
Check guys that are
and then it's
required.
from Red Mill Village
Yep.
up to
If they're
Norwood.
not there, sometimes they win.
Remember that incident.
there'll be no betterment fee under section 11 of the sewer regs? That's,
No, there's no betterment, it wasn't, betterments are for publicly funded sewer projects, and this
and this
was
was
not.
private.
So,
Excellent.
the $65,000 fee covers the sewer
That's it.
tie-in.
Great, thank you. Appreciate the clarification.
Yeah, we just want to know. So are we all set to go ahead and put that request or fill out that permit for the sewer connection? Everything's okay, approved?
He just gave me a couple of minor changes that we'll give it to Bert.
I think he did.
You
this.
did?
You may have seen that already? Okay.
Okay, I'll give it to you anyway, Bert. This stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, well, okay.
Yeah.
So they were not a big deal. They were a couple cleanups next to the building. and
Very minor, yeah.
something else.
Yeah, cleanouts, I think a couple check valves, just a couple items that were pointed out by the lead sewer tech.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and get that permit application that we use with a check for that. And, I'd like to get that started because, they need to get out there.
Yeah, and again, even some of that, we're trying to get it done on the weekend time frame because we don't need people inside flushing toilets when we're trying to.
It's gonna be challenging.
Anything else you can think of, Rick?
No, I think that covers it. Thank you all, I guess, for the information, and I think we'll respond and hopefully convince you that we can waive the loop requirement based on the safety issues. That is the most important issue. We all agree.
Yeah, because just that blue line loop is another 943 feet all the way around to make that, yeah. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you all.
Thank you, appreciate it. All right, Frank, you are up, my friend. Ah, Sean gets to do it?
Wicked fast.
Nice, I like that even better. Only gets to do it. Sorry about not having another guy to vote on anything
Yeah.
tonight, we apologize.
Oh, you never get a chance.
No, no.
Good to meet you, sir.
Same here.
Good to meet you, yeah. And you're John?
John, yeah,
John, good to meet you.
nice to meet you as well.
Okay, trying to get faces today. Back and forth.
Right.
Oh, same here. No, no problem.
Yeah, with, couple of our guys,
A
Steve
couple
and
of them,
Heather, yeah.
Yeah, Steve's our general superintendent. I know he's going to see you.
Thank you.
All right.
Oh, thank you.
You might have to. No,
Well, good luck working for Brett.
Yeah, I'm sure.
No, no.
Say that.
Good to meet you.
Okay,
He's coming. There he is. He's just gonna get some
Sorry.
water. He scared me.
Get some water.
Oh, you left with them.
Okay, so the assistant superintendent updates. As I'm sure you all know, the Elm Street, water and sewer article, as far, concerning the, MassWorks grant, was pulled from the Springtown meeting warrant, for several reasons. One of them is to avoid everything related to that Springtown meeting. There's an override, which is gonna create major logistical issues. It's gonna be kind of a zoo. People are gonna have their blood up, and, it's
Not good timing.
not good timing to ask for
We
$8
read,
million in funding when we're also voting on a major override for the town.
we read the room.
Right, and also we don't have any sort of real commitment from Devco or whomever on that property, and there's some hope as to maybe getting a little more clarity before, fall town meeting. We are having tons of sprinkler tests all over town. We got more scheduled for the coming weeks, and all the way into June. And a hydrant flow test, at Bernie and Phil's. So that's keeping us busy. It's using water. Haven't had many major disturbances related to them yet. A couple weeks back, we did have, I believe it was, maybe, Auto Parts International or New England Ice Cream. One of those had one that had stirred something up, but it's been, for the most part, it's been pretty quiet on that front. We had a sewer service leak down on King Philip, a friend of the board actually, their property. I believe the pipe actually had come out of the curb stop. The contractor who did it seems to have not done the best job. And but our crew went down there, did a great job, got it fixed. So that's all set. And actually it was our lead sewer tech wasn't even there that day, so all of our water guys pitched in and did an excellent job. Today, actually, yesterday, there was an attempted, startup at Knollwood, and, Holly Road wastewater stations for the new generators. They hit a snag at Knollwood. I believe it was a transfer switch control, a faulty transfer switch control. So I know there was working with the actual generator company, not Ardent, who's the contractor, is working with the generator company to get that fixed. I believe they're going to try again Thursday, to get that started up. So we're pretty close to crossing the finish line, hopefully, on that front, which has been a long time coming, probably 2 years. Tara, how long have we had this ARPA money? 2 years. At least 2 years? It's been a while. So we're getting there.
And we're gonna stop the warranty until we accept it, is that right?
We don't start the warranty on the job as a whole until we accept it. The generator warranty with the contractor, I don't know how that works. But it's not the town's expense. That's all I know. I'll let Ryan talk about this a little. I know Bizco has started work at Cobb Street for phase 2, which will be, the wet well rehab. That's not what they're doing this second, but they've started to work down there. I'm sure they'll have something on that. We had to do a little bit of flushing yesterday because of that project at 192 Taunton Ave. They had done one tap for that 8-inch loop last week. We had a shutdown from on Old Taunton Ave from Crane Street to the corner of Taunton Ave. And then when we went to do the other tap yesterday, one of the gate valves wouldn't close all the way and the nut snapped off. So we had to perform an emergency shutdown farther down on Taunton Ave that put a section of the road out of water. And the crew did a pretty good job from what I can tell, of getting the repair and work done fast, but then when we re-energize that line, that's a lot of water to move, and it stirred up some dirty water. So in the Taunton Ave, Eddy Street, South Worcester Street, Woodward area, there was some dirty water. So we had a crew out last night till probably about 7 o'clock doing some flushing. I'm sure Tara has a couple updates on the plant. Last week we had Aqueous out to clean our ox tank. Something that we probably should be keeping a closer eye on as far as routine maintenance, but hadn't been done and needed to be done. So they were there for a couple days cleaning that out, getting sediment out the bottom of that. Tara and Ben did a good job helping us get them out there in a timely fashion. Have we talked about the filters as far as that? No. Do we want to get into that? Okay. We did some filter work at the plant. Did some new media in the filters. See what Tara, if Tara wants to talk about that, she can.
I'm interested.
Um,
We get core sample results yet?
Not yet.
Nothing yet?
Your person has something like that?
They might have.
That's what allowed out.
Sometimes the messenger isn't always the clearest. So, and it's getting to the end of the fiscal year. We're starting to see people take some time off. Probably took, people running late. I don't know about that. So probably from now until the end of the fiscal year, and in the beginning of the fiscal year too, we'll probably have some short staffing. Just nature of the beast, time of year, whatnot.
We had a plan to help offset that. We just haven't got approval yet.
Yeah, we got a plan. Knight in shining armor who worked here 40 years. We're gonna try to get him back part-time, see how that
Jim's
goes.
coming back?
I said knight in shining armor. Am I forgetting anything?
I think you got it.
Sure I'm forgetting something, but
Let's talk about the postcard.
yeah, I thought we had maybe mentioned that at the last meeting. Pretty sure we had, maybe not that it had been received, but that we were sending it out. The TTHM postcard.
DEP's idea of
Yeah,
simplifying things, made things harder to
Yes.
enforce.
yeah.
I've had more comments from Redville
Yeah,
Village.
it was supposed to be a simplifying thing and no
I
such.
got more comments about that postcard, but
Same.
we did put out something with everybody's help, to Redville Village, explaining, what it meant in English, and that satisfied everybody.
I feel like there is something I've forgotten, but if I remember it, I'll be sure to interrupt Ben when he's talking. I'm sorry, Ben. I heard it in my head.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's still driving there.
Yeah.
Be hearing it out.
Brian.
New DPW director.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
You're interchangeable.
Exactly. Do me a favor.
All right, Ryan, you wanna go next or you want?
Sure, why not? Yeah, John touched on a decent amount of the topics that were gonna cover tonight. Biggest one is the Elm Street sewer.
Oh, don't let me forget this. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's what I had forgotten. Yep.
Community test?
Biggest one is the Elm Street sewer extension and water main improvement project. Like John said, the article was posted in the springtime meeting, try again in the fall. We're gonna proceed as forward, and we need to finish the design for the end of the fiscal year in order to wrap up all the grant funding for it. So we're gonna work to finalize pump station site, for where it's gonna go. We actually need to reach out to Paul Giuseppe, work with the historical commission and the library board commission to figure out what requirements we need for that. So, we had a meeting about a month ago at this point, with Jared, from the highway department regarding the crossing of East Main Street. Based on everything that we talked about, we're not gonna start to drill through that area. Based on subsurface information, it's not a viable option, so to start to drill through that area, there's a lot of options based on what we found. But he's amenable to us doing an open cut trench through the street as long as it's like doing a proper pavement of that. The next step for us is obviously to finish up the design, including plans and specs, and then also finish up the form here. And then just a quick public outreach update. The last meeting we had was on the 8th. Minimally attended public outreach meeting, so we finished both of the ones that we scheduled. At this point, I think we're gonna try and schedule another one for September, closer to the fall town meeting in October. So folks need to figure out the best time to post that, where it's gonna get posted. The housing authority was in a bad spot, but again, I think the library is doing it better.
Maybe the,
New
senior
senior
center
center.
will be open by then.
Well, while we're on Elm Street, I know we talked about this, about, maybe having a plan B and a plan C instead of, the ultimate job was to tour Elm Street and the other street, but to just provide tours of 47 Elm Street. As just an alternative. If the Elm Street residents doesn't want the sewer line, but we want to develop 47 Elm Street, it's an option. And Steve, I'm sure you're aware that we did speak to the permitting authority, the grant authority. And, it's basically, it's $3.5 million of ours to spend off the top of the project without changing the scope. Be ashamed to not spend $3.5 million state money, since it's the largest grant that's given. And the status of the state budget is probably never gonna be seen again, so hopefully in the near future. So we really should look at, and I know sewer in 47 Elm Street, do we try to pick up the two-failing septic system? I mean, it makes logical sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me, I'm not so sure it makes sense to anybody else, but, I know it makes sense to everybody here, but I'm just saying resident wise.
Especially with 64 Elm Street on hold.
Right, I mean, the logic, it makes sense, and whether or not we can, run the numbers, and so, the reason I bring it up is, your design ends June 30th, we should have that, we look at it.
Yep.
And just have that, those plans and the numbers. And then if we can't convince the Elm Street residents to do it, then, we'll have to come up with plan B and plan C. Absolutely. Makes sense.
No,
I mean, I'd rather I'd rather do it right. But it's a shame to give up the money and not do it. And, meanwhile, we'll get a water main out of it and we'll get, and of course, we all know what will happen if we only sewer 47 Elm Street. We all know. It'll happen
5
every
septic
time.
systems fail the next year.
Well, you told me what happened with the apartments, which I wasn't familiar with.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't here yet, on East Main Street. I guess whatever reason, East Main Street residents didn't want the sewer line. And the condos across the street there, they wanted to tie in and they couldn't. I'm not sure what they paid to upgrade the septic system, but I'm sure it was big money. Based on my experience.
So yeah, we can definitely look at in terms of options. To continue the way that we've been going, but really high percent that.
Just have a, alternative in our back pocket, so to speak, and then when we go to the fall town meeting, I don't know if we're worried about the language on warrant articles, but we'll just figure it out by then, but we'll put the numbers. I mean, we read the room, I didn't go to the first hearing, you did?
I was there in spirit.
Well, the first hearing, I guess, was, I wasn't there, I guess you were there, but, the second hearing, I didn't hear anybody say no. We didn't really ask them a question though, but we didn't hear them say no.
No, I know, the couple in the back, they attended the first meeting.
With the 200-foot one setback, is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
To dig his own service.
That was the biggest one.
Oh, yeah.
At the first meeting as well. But everybody in that room at the second is interested.
Yeah, it wasn't totally negative, I just think so. I think we had to do the presentation.
Gotta be.
Whoever did that did a pretty good job.
I think so.
But yeah, I mean, Elm Street is gonna be. Got it.
I'm not disappointed we put it off. I'm just telling you that, you know, we just got the, I don't know if you guys heard about how they're gonna set up the town meeting.
Mhm.
It's a 4 o'clock registration, et cetera, so I'm sure you've heard of that, right?
Yeah, they're gonna do it in the cafeteria and
Yeah.
well, it's gonna be
Gonna be
set up
pretty-
for, it's gonna be set up for
At least they now at least have a plan, because when we met, when we were selected last week, they had no plan, so at least they're all up there, I think.
Well,
And Zach seems to be doing a good
It's
job.
gonna be in 3 different rooms, so all 3 of us can be in those different rooms, so we're not next to each other, because we
Good plan.
yeah.
I'm thinking about being a monitor. I'm gonna volunteer, how about?
I'm bringing my DJ equipment.
Well, should be good.
John's putting the food trailer.
Perfect.
Yeah, it should be a interesting night. Us too.
I'll be camping, I'm sorry. I'll zoom in.
So following up on John's report about the Hollywood with no generators, like you said, the startup was scheduled for yesterday. The issue with the automatic, we had no contract that we hired in time to figure out what was going on. I guess they were still able to connect the generator to gas service, and it ran successfully. So essentially, the startup is the completion of the startup testing is pending the ATS issue, and that being resolved. That could be over the next. The latest I heard is that the contractor is going to be back at Holly Road tomorrow, or on Thursday, sorry, to connect the gas service in and start the test. So, see how that one goes and what they're planning to forward for the Norwood automatic switch. On Cobb Street Phase 1, have a payment application that was discussed last time. For
Denied.
Steve said everything was all set. You guys, you were going to be able to sign it. So, it's essentially
Of
the.
course, he's gotta tell you that.
Yeah, yeah. He's on vacation.
Yeah, that's what, exactly.
He's just telling me what I want to do. So, but it's the last payment application. I was able to. I didn't get an update on that. You know, the issues that were over there. Assuming they're resolved. If not, they're going to be trouble.
Yeah, I think Cobb Street was all set. Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to accept, to make a motion for payment requisition number 5 for Cobb Street Pump Station Improvements Contract 2021-01 for a payment of $7,969.70. Fall River Electric System. I guess that's.
A second? All in favor?
And Frank signed it, right?
Yes. Yep. Frank's got to sign for you.
Anything?
Thank you. I got it done in that.
Awesome.
Well done, Tim.
Moving on to Cobb Street Phase 2. John said, the bypass pumping, we were finally able to settle the bypass pumping plan. So at this point, their plan is to get out there tomorrow and start doing some trenching work for the bypass pumping. They're gonna remove the manhole cone on the upstream manhole. And then they'll be able to go from there. I think it's Thursday. Yeah, so the bypass pumping equipment is supposed to arrive on Thursday. They're gonna assemble it and hopefully start bypass pumping.
So basically, we had a discussion last week, with, Steve and Will as far as, the best way to get this bypass pumping done. The contractor had proposed taking the cone off the manhole and, basically running the hoses right into the manhole from the top and plating the top. And, we had discussed whether we wanted to do part of the work, you know, trenching, removing the cone off the manhole, that part. And then we kind of, Chris and I, the foreman, were talking and said, we think it's worth the money of having the contractor to do it, to not have anything come back on the town and them, you know, if we have dirt, water, some I in the manhole, they're not pointing the finger at us as doing, you know, not good work, or that's if we could even have been able to do the work. You know, it's a pretty good sized job. So we felt it was in our best interest to have the contractor do it, and it's all their responsibility. Nothing on the department at all.
Right.
So, that's where we're at on that
Yeah.
one.
So yeah, they're hoping it up at the trenching work. We're moving the manhole cover.
Who's doing the work?
It is Visco.
Oh, this one, right, okay. You said it.
I guess the tap on the existing fourth main inside the building is all set, so. It's completely ready for connection. Yeah. So this is the Cobb Street Phase 2. Regarding the peer reviews for the 0 Mansfield Ave, I guess they got shut down at the building committee.
Planning board.
Planning board shot them.
But I don't see how they, not doable.
It's not gonna hold up. There's no way
Yeah,
it's gonna.
absolutely. You know, the thing,
I know.
I guess with the planning board didn't like, something have to do with conservation, basically denied the project coming to the conservation.
Where's the project?
The corner of Mansfield Ave and Reservoir, where that triangle is.
Oh.
That was gonna run that sewer line.
Yeah.
So like Steve had said,
They overstepped it.
yeah, the conservation commission signed off on it, and one of the main reasons for the planning board denying it was conservation related, which makes no sense. And it seems to me, from what I've heard, for whatever reason, I don't see why they went to the planning board before coming to an agreement with us, because they could have presented fully that they had agreed on what their sewer plans were. And I don't think that I mean, as far as I understand, the planning board is to, you know, assist in economic and, you know, growth of the town. And you have a sewer line that the residents aren't gonna have to pay betterments for, or aren't gonna be required to tie into unless there's a Title V failure or what is it, selling resale. So I mean, that's like total opposite of Elm Street. It's like the perfect sewer going in there, and I don't think the planning board even heard about it. So I don't know if the developer did themselves any favors in that planning board meeting. I mean, we weren't there, but sounds like we haven't heard the last of that situation.
Yeah, and the last meeting we had with them, we finished our peer review with them, trying to give them some guidance on where the next steps for their sewer design would go. And they were gonna get something back to us, but we had. Do you hear anything? Or everybody knows.
So when are they gonna hopefully bring it down to, West Main Street?
They were gonna represent with a section of force main. Some gravity, some force main, but it really wasn't gonna change the scope that much, because of people still would have been able to connect and stuff, but we, like you said, we haven't heard back from them, so.
And then 0 Reservoir Street, we finished our peer review for them. The last I heard, they were gonna go out and resurvey the sewer on Reservoir Street, cause based on our analysis, they have some different elevations and different pipe sizes out there. And then since they said they were gonna go out and survey.
They move slow.
So I assume we'll see something in the near future, but as of now, see what happens. And then the only other thing I have on here is the Norton Public Schools. So we're in the early stages of converting the middle school treatment facility to a Title V system. By early stages of the water. So
That's right.
Okay,
She's got a big folder.
all the meetings. So the water treatment plan, as John said, obvious.
Underwater,
Underwater
water
solutions, yeah.
solutions, yeah.
Is it underwater solutions?
They changed
They
their
changed
name.
their name now.
Oh, is that what they're called now? Okay, yeah.
Aquarius? Yeah.
So we did work with the town, our water department, on getting them out there, treatment plant, there was some buildup of debris from their aerators, in the ox tank there. I think they took 2 days, it was supposed to be done in a day or so, a little bit extra time and effort. A little more debris in there to clean out than they had originally anticipated. Kind of getting back to last meeting, I think we were just talking a little bit about total carbon, and then, well, really the manganese issue was really the primary issue with the plant originally. started to do a little bit of work. Derek had mentioned, hey, I do also have filter number 5 offline. And then there was more or less an emergency with filter 3 off, so we decided to take filter 3 offline. So we hired, we had already started to get quotes for getting Andy Taylor out there for the water service professionals to kind of work on filter 5 again. Seemed to be exhibiting very similar situation as what was happening over at filter 3, about a year and a half ago or so when we had that one offline. Same thing, basically, it looks like there was a lot of media mixed up between the green sand and the anthracite. Looks like there was, a lack of, proper bed depth for the stone, bedding. And there was also in filter number 5, there was a crack or two in the, airburst system, which was also repaired. So when we pulled all the media out, put the proper bed depths back in, sorted everything out, any of the media that was stuck in the under drains, I was fully cleaned out. And then, added in a little bit more anthracite and green sand, where we lost it through the under drains.
Did we use the same stuff? Or did we use?
No, we didn't put new, we reused, yeah, so back to the manganese, we had actually regenerated the media, for that, seems to be working pretty well as far as manganese removal. There is still a little bit of color that's being seen coming in at unseasonably high groundwater table. We sent out one of our other, experts out there to meet with Derek last week, I just need to get the update for how we're doing, but we did indicate that we want to do some additional sampling. Haven't seen, any results from that yet, but I know we got the initial, TOC and a couple other parameters about 2 to 3 weeks ago, and then just said, okay, well, let's get another baseline sample and move forward with getting a little bit more information. I think Steve, as you mentioned, we don't have I haven't seen the core sample that was done before we even had Andy go out there. I did get clarification from Derek that the core sample was only done at one filter. It's not done at any of the other ones. Not exactly sure if it's gonna show anything earth shattering. I think we all know what's kind of more or less happening. Those 3 filters, 1, 3, and 5 are all in one series. The other, and one other bank on the other side opposite. It seems that when either Tonka or Methuen, when they, not sure exactly who was the one responsible for putting the stone in, but ultimately Tonka is responsible for the sign off on the filter, that they've been, that media and the bedding was put in properly. So, unfortunate that it's been a few years since that was installed and you're now having some issues with it. We had Andy Taylor put together a report, just, sent him a couple edits last week. He just sent me this while I was in meetings with Frank this afternoon, so I'll get that around to everybody, but it was pretty much what we thought it was gonna be, very similar to the last year, so unfortunate. I think the next steps that we talked about was, you know, if you need to do repairs or at least kind of investigations similar to what's finished, it's gonna be around the same price, 25 to 30,000 for the actual repairs, and there's gonna be, that's gonna be an additional cost. The thought would be to, you know, get out there and at least have Andy go out and do an investigation, just kind of see if you can see where the bed depth is.
So how many vessels do we have online now? 5?
I think all 6 are
All
online.
6 are online? Okay.
Yeah, the town is responsible for, water department is responsible for getting them up and running again once this completed all the work. So as far as I know, they've been running fine. 3 hasn't shown any media loss or any kind of clogging or anything like that since we rebuilt it.
What are we getting for manganese removal? We getting good manganese, iron removal? We still,
Iron and manganese removal is actually fairly good. The apparent color that, still comes through every once in a while is from a different source. You have to determine more than likely organic based on the flooding. But that's what we're waiting on sample results for.
Yeah, so I'm waiting for a little bit more of an analysis. We have our person out there to kind of just check all the results, get a little bit of data from before. I think that Derek's been checking the manganese way more frequently on a daily basis than he probably ever has in the past. So he was kind of starting to see, well, it's, you know, it's like usually check once a day and that's pretty much it. So, but there's some color out there. So that's the one thing that we're just waiting to kind of get a little bit more information on. Where you go from there, I think we just need to figure out exactly what the issue is and then what we want to do moving forward. You haven't seen this before. You haven't also seen historic high groundwater table that's been in that high level for such a long period of time. So we're thinking it is the organics that are causing that problem, but again, we just need to get more data back from the testing. And then decide whether or not that's something that's temporary, if this is gonna be something with climate change in the future, you're gonna deal with it every year. That's something that we're gonna have to discuss on whether or not we wanna make some modifications. We're already in the process of kind of moving forward, addressing the long-term PFAS solution. If there is any plant upgrades, at the treatment plant needed at that time, I think that's when we probably put that in as part of our application for treatment plant modifications and permit to construct the construction for PFAS treatment and additional treatment needs. So it's definitely been a little bit of a whirlwind the last 5 weeks, I'd say, with what's going on at the plant. Long and short, the water coming out of the plant is still, it meets all state standards right now. It's just more of a power concern that obviously we've not seen in the past, and because the pipelines are so clean at this point, and you are filtering, you're not seeing that. That's a new color in a sense for what was there, I'd say, before the treatment plant was online, but now people are gotten used to living near the treatment plants, and so there's a little bit of color right by the treatment plant. So
It's not steady, it's random.
Yeah.
It
First in the
changes-
tanish color.
It changes depending on how the frequency of the filters are. And oddly enough, after the filters have been backwashed, when they first go back online, we're seeing a spike in all of the waters. Which is just kind of unique to our system anyway, whether it's normal for others, we don't know. But typically after, backwash and regen, we think we get the best removal, and ours, it takes a little while to build, so that time that it's building is where you see the apparent color to make it into the off tank and put them around. So very unique.
because of the initial manganese notice, what Derek was seeing, he's investigated almost everything at the plant at this point. So he investigated your gas system. You got your aeration. He's looked in the ox tank. So we found a lot of things that are just things that you just need to get on a general maintenance program. That plant is relatively still new, even though it's been running for 3-4 years, but 2020 actually. So 4 years now, over 4 years. So he's not gotten into that. Okay, I've got a 50-year-old plant. I know exactly when certain things need to get going. So ox tank clean out, something to put on the O&M manual, checking the aeration system a little bit frequently, making sure that's fully operational and doing its job. And then on top of it, it's just something abnormal we've not seen with water quality. And we just need to kind of get a little bit more data to figure out exactly what to do with it. Some systems go through this for a couple of weeks. Some of them, in this case, your plant's not designed to treat for organics. That's not what you don't spend extra millions of dollars to treat for something you don't have. You do have one, so that's one of the downfalls. And we just need to figure out exactly what the options are. Temporary, chemical addition, maybe at the ox tank itself, and go from there. But waiting for more data, so stay tuned. And then the other thing we were talking about, and this is why we have our expert out there, is to discuss blending, making sure we're not shocking the system a little bit, taking the three wells. Now that you have, we're not concerned with the manganese levels in a sense on that level. Just taking a look at which one maybe be providing a little bit more of that color, and then trying to blend a little bit. Just taking a look at the operation side of things, maximizing efficiency, and kind of just checking it out. Taking a look at all the past monthly, daily records and stuff like that. So I'm hoping to get a little bit of a summary, hopefully sometime this week. Otherwise, in the next meeting, we'll be more closer to any questions, so we can chat on that. But I think that right now we're a lot of investigation has happened, and now we're just trying to figure out. I think several of them are very individual issues, and we're checking them off and solving them as we go.
So these organics that we're getting, that's a treatable thing.
Well, sure, you can do anything, right?
I don't know.
So-
What can you do when you have a green sand filtration? Is there something, an additive, or is there a new filtration that they've got to go through in addition?
We would probably do something pre-filters.
Pre-filtered, okay. Just curious, because we haven't run into that either.
No,
It's new.
Piloting, nothing,
Yeah.
you've never seen, Derek was very clear, he's never seen the groundwork take about half an hour.
Okay.
And
Probably gonna get worse before it gets better.
Well, we've seen the peak of the groundwater, whether we have an extraordinarily wet summer, which would be unheard of,
Yeah, we have to get to the spring first.
Yeah, I think we're done with. Okay, for now.
I mean, historically, you're usually out of it now, and you're starting to get into your peak
Well,
demand.
there's no normal in what.
Yeah, but this is where time and,
We want to see the trend.
yeah, you see it again next year, then you start talking about potentially what you want to do in future.
By then, we'll still be in the planning stages for the people.
Well, we're taking TOC samples.
We have taken, I think Derek has definitely taken at least one that we recommended. I don't know if he's taken the second one.
We have one round with information. I think the second round we're still waiting on.
Yes, it does, again, unfortunately, it's a few weeks for the turnaround.
Just need a base information.
Yeah, the last baseline we have is from a couple years ago, which was, you weren't in the same situation yet.
And what about our well station, water station, everything?
We have not been required to put that online because we have not put well 3 back online. And we're still discussing in-house when that's gonna happen. It does have to happen before we get into our peak demand. We just won't be able to maintain system demand without that well. All the samples that have been taken since the well's been offline have been well below the 20 parts per trillion, which is still the enforceable level, but the numbers have been changed down to 4, which is just gonna be unachievable. So we do have the opportunity to put that on at any point. We just have to notify the residents when it goes back online. And if we continue to exceed, we have to supply them with the secondary source. If we're capable of doing that, which would be the water treatment facility, providing that stays below the 4 parts per trillion number. And that's why that has not gone online as of yet.
And what about budgets? What can you tell us about where you are now in the budget for 2023 and 24?
You want me to take that one?
That's all you.
Our budget, has not been severely impacted. We are an enterprise account, so we do generate, money ourselves. We've also had 2, longer tenured employees retire, so the people we hired to replace them make less money than them, so our budget overall actually pretty close to either stayed the same or went down. Our budget items across the board, we kept pretty close to what they were last year, anticipated for the coming year, because I think we had anticipated a pretty big hike in some chemicals and other things that we saw an increase, not as much of an increase as we thought, so we had a little bit more buffer in those line items than we had anticipated.
Yeah, the
So,
prices have gone down.
yeah, for
Yeah,
this
prices have
coming,
gone
yes.
So
down.
the current
So,
fiscal year, you're okay.
Yep.
And what's projected for the override, because I noticed the tables don't talk about water improvement. They're not listed. Like highways and everything. So I was just curious.
Yeah, so because the water and sewer isn't funded out of the general
Other
fund.
than the DPW group.
Right,
Other than-
right. So that's been pulled off of our budget, until a later date. I honestly don't know if there's ever gonna be one. The DPW was voted through. It doesn't seems like the current finance committee seems to not see a huge financial benefit to it. The previous one saw a little more of a benefit to it. And I believe that before that DPW was supposed to be voted in officially, there was supposed to be another finance committee meeting to show the numbers that prove it was financially responsible, and I don't think that discussion ever happened. So,
I know I kept on asking, but we didn't
yeah.
get it.
So, yeah, the DPW director and related expenses were pulled from our budget. I mean, you never know, I know the price to fill up my gas tank's gone up about $15 in the last week and a half. So who knows what's going to happen as far as all of our costs that are directly tied to fuel costs, but we feel pretty confident about our budget this rest of this year and next year. So
Good to know.
I did have an update on South Worcester Street, we decided we have a bid opening today. So we're just gonna analyze, I got them right here, but just need to kind of take a look, make sure the math is all right. We had 9 bidders, the apparent total base bid, was around 2.6 million, so, pretty much kind of right where we were happy with those numbers. We just need to review what, town hall know what the final bid numbers are, won't be about it, but. Next steps are,
Anything
that's all, the constructions are for
You're
funding.
not analyzing all, everyone was involved.
I mean, I just put them back, so I have to bring, I don't. We go through everything, make sure the numbers are written up right and added up right, stuff like that.
Yeah, we found all sorts of mistakes, so anything possible.
Yeah.
As you know.
Nothing out of the ordinary, all of them acknowledge the addendum, everybody acknowledged that it was all signed, they provided bid bonds.
Good.
So there's nothing abnormal, except we gotta just crunch numbers out, make sure the addition works. So that's moving. But that's gonna be ARPA construction funded, which we need to just, I think it's all still hinging on town meeting, so.
So just to remind me on town meeting warrant, that was warrant article, we'll see that. The money.
To approve the
Shifting money
shifting of money to pay for certain engineering services related to the project. Because even though the state of Massachusetts doesn't require competitive bidding for engineering services, for whatever reason, the auditor flagged the ARPA project of South Worcester and I believe the 2 generators, Knollwood and Holly Road, as not qualifying for the ARPA money because the engineering wasn't competitively bid. So basically, we have to shift money from other accounts to cover the engineering for those projects. So that's our remaining article at town meeting is about. That, and then also covering as far as for PFAS research, and trying to take money from different accounts and put it to those topics.
And what is finance committee do with those articles?
They were supported.
And we're just basically cleaning up the books. We had leftover funds in an account. Typically,
I wanna be on the same page. when we go to the meeting, so we can know what to do.
we've historically done that in the past. It was brought to our attention a few years ago that we had some leftover monies that needed to be cleaned up. And, with, Brooks digging into some of the documents that we found additional monies, so now we're cleaning up.
Yeah, look,
No,
you done? You go?
So let's talk about
maybe
a
not.
water this job. You have 30 days for water? How many days we have for water? So we're gonna, in that new meeting, we're gonna go through the procedure?
Well, we're gonna make a recommendation over the next week or 2, and then, yeah, we'll get the information from, get ready to sign contracts, yeah.
Okay. Steve, you have to show up and sign it. Sorry.
I was here at all.
I couldn't be
If Frank didn't call me, I would have been on my way.
I told you it was date night.
No, daytime, that's Wednesday.
We have a item unreasonably anticipated within
Oh,
48 hours.
we never get those.
Yeah, it is there.
Yep.
You're the map. person.
No.
So there was a meter that was in question. We ended up going for a high bill for high consumption.
Mhm.
Meter spinning like crazy. It was recommended that, it get changed.
Mhm.
With the new meter. Actually, it was requested that it be changed to a new meter by the owner. He felt that the meter shouldn't be spinning that fast, it's faulty, there's something wrong with it. He said, well, we can send the meter out, we can have it tested. If it comes back accurate, you pay for the test, you pay for the bill. This meter came back, this is the first one in 25 years that I've seen at 1.9% above the standard, so it's 0.95 above the 1%, which is allowed.
However, it is worth noting that the new meter that was installed is still
It is still rapidly spinning and they still have a massive
there's
leak
still an issue.
at the facility.
the old meter was overreading the slight way. So I believe needs an abatement. Is the abatement-
How do we figure out the abatement?
It'd be- I would assume you take the percentage of the overread and calculate that off the last reading, because it can only go back to the previous bill.
Okay,
And we would also absorb the cost of having the meter tested.
okay. When was this noticed by them? The last bill?
Yeah.
Last
It
bill,
was pretty recent, yeah.
okay, so we don't have to go back years. And,
They, according to the regulations, they can only go back and contest the bill within 30 days.
okay, that's what we ran with that other guy, okay, yeah. Alright, yeah, that's, shouldn't be.
I don't have an.
Is the amount to abate on here?
No, I don't, I think Janice was kind of.
So we'll figure that out. Can we figure that out next time, or do we?
Give me a
John's a whiz, watch this.
So
Or you
last,
can just make a motion to abate it on the percent,
We could,
whatever, and then we'll figure out the math.
we could do that.
so
Yeah.
That's good.
we'll make that motion. I don't know what the
Why?
address is.
So
Abate the water and the test,
The water,
the meter test.
the water is just over what are we bidding?
The percentage of the inaccuracy of the meter. So there's 1% allowed, plus or minus, on the accuracy of the meter. That one there came in at 0.95 over.
Updating the 0.95.
That's basically 1%.
Okay, we're getting, okay, so I make a motion to abate the meter test and 1% of the water bill for 7 Maple Street North.
I second. All in favor?
So last meeting, we had a bill that was, we were supposed to take action on, and I don't believe we did, high meter reading. It was on the table, but we didn't take action. Anybody know what happened?
Do not. I guess not.
You sure you weren't dreaming about that?
Absolutely positive.
Really? Not true.
The homeowner who was, high water reading. We talked about it, but I don't believe.
Is it still in that meeting?
Yeah, I do remember that too. That wasn't the guy that showed up late, was it? Cause he didn't show up, right? The person didn't show up when we went to discuss it.
We're in loss on this one.
Anyway, we should probably figure
I
out
don't
where that
remember
is.
that at all.
We should probably figure where that is and we can take some action.
Yeah.
One way or the other.
He's on vacation.
Was there no action taken on it?
We didn't take it up.
Okay.
It was right here.
Yeah.
And we looked at it, we all looked at it, but we didn't take any action on it.
Guess we'll have to research that. So I can-
Well,
not ring a bell.
It came in very late to the meeting, that's why it probably wasn't on the agenda.
I was really for the meeting. All right, next meeting date, June 11th, is that what we,
That's what it's
Screw that up?
supposed to be.
okay? Sounds good to me. Understand, June already. It's almost summer.
So, town meeting wise, we're supposed to make May 28th, and then there's supposed to be an election? Or a ballot,
I don't know.
we don't know anymore.
I heard that election is happening, so I don't know.
Okay, I'm just trying to make sure that, and do we know anything, we don't know anything more about May 28th, I don't think that it has to happen on May 28th.
Yes. Needed to happen within 2 weeks. So. I don't know. Glad we're not involved.
I have nothing else.
All right. Well, you get to do it this time.
I move to adjourn.
I second, all in favor.
Aye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.